The situation in Gaza worsens with Israel intensifying its military operations. According to Gaza health officials, at least 20 Palestinians were killed in an Israeli airstrike since dawn. This comes after U.S. President Donald Trump announced that he expects Hamas to respond within 24 hours to what he describes as his final proposal for a ceasefire. In the latest, Hamas has released harrowing visuals of Israeli hostage Aviatar David. The distressing visuals have reignited the public anger across Israel. The video shows the hostage severely emaciated. David appears to be in an underground tunnel, reportedly digging what he fears is his own grave. Israeli officials accuse Hamas of deliberately starving the hostages, using them as a cruel measure or pressure tactic in the ongoing negotiations.
I have no idea if there will be food. I have no clue what will happen with that. I haven't eaten in I don't know how many days in a row.
In a first, Israeli far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir visited Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. He led prayers along with a group of Israelis at the contentious site under heavy police protection. Moreover, he called on the Israel government to move into Gaza, assert control over the Palestinian territory, eliminate Hamas, and support voluntary immigration.
Hamas's horror videos come against the backdrop of one thing: their attempt to create pressure on the state of Israel. And I say it precisely from here, on the Temple Mount, where we have proven that sovereignty and governance are possible. It is precisely from here that we need to convey a message and ensure that already today we occupy the entire Gaza Strip.
The move has sparked massive outrage among Saudi Arabia and Arab allies. In a statement, the Saudi Ministry of Foreign Affairs warned that such repeated violations by Israeli officials would fuel tensions in the region. Jordan's foreign ministry also condemned the incident, describing it as a serious violation of the status quo at Al-Aqsa Mosque and a clear breach of international law. The Palestinian presidency also denounced Ben-Gvir's actions as provocative and urged the international community, particularly the U.S., to hold Israel accountable for repeated violations of international conventions. Al-Aqsa Mosque, located in East Jerusalem, is recognized under international law as part of the occupied Palestinian territories since 1967. Reports suggest behind closed doors, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and U.S. President Donald Trump are engaged in high-level talks, working directly and intensively on a broad agreement that could determine the future of Gaza. The proposal demands that Hamas releases all hostages at once and disarm entirely. Following this, an international governing body led by the United States will assume control of Gaza. And if Hamas rejects the comprehensive proposal, Israel will effectively receive a green light from the Trump administration to operate freely, militarily, in the Gaza Strip. Hundreds of protesters rallied at Hostages Square in Tel Aviv, demanding the Israeli government end the Gaza war and ensure the return of all hostages. Of the 50 hostages remaining in Gaza, the IDF has confirmed the deaths of 28. According to the Gaza Health Ministry, the Palestinian death toll in the Strip has risen to 60,430, with more than 148,000 others injured since the conflict between Hamas and Israel erupted on October 7, 2023. Mr. Giorgio Cafiero is a professor at Georgetown University and CEO Gulf State Analytics, is now joining us live from Washington, D.C. Mr. Cafiero, good to see you, and thank you very much for your time. Why do you think Hamas is resorting to these horrid and hard-to-watch propaganda videos of hostages emaciated and digging their graves, while at the same time stalling the truce talks?
Yeah, thanks for having me back on your program. Always good to be with you. You know, I think in your report, you really put your finger on it when you pointed to this as a pressure tactic that Hamas is using. Obviously, images like this are ones that are, extremely difficult to see, and the Israeli public is very emotional, understandably so. And I think probably from Hamas's point of view, this is a tactic that can result in the Israeli public putting more pressure on the Netanyahu government to quickly negotiate some sort of an arrangement with Hamas to get hostages and captives released as soon as possible.
Mr. Kafir, one word for the Minister of Israel, Ben-Gvir's visit to Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. This has drawn a lot of condemnation, a lot of outrage from Saudi Arabia and other Arab states.
Well, absolutely. We all know that this is an incredibly sensitive issue that plays out not only among Palestinians, but throughout the wider Arab Islamic world. It's an incredibly provocative move by the minister. But, Israel, especially this extremist government, is always making the point that its philosophy is that might makes right, and that through brute force and military muscle, Israel is able to occupy land outside of its internationally recognized borders and create facts on the ground. It does not care about international law. It does not care about the sensitivities regarding these types of issues, and it is willing just to use brute force to create new facts on the ground without really any consideration for the type of instability that gets fueled by these sorts of actions.
Mr. Kafir, lastly, there has been talk about a two-state solution and also recognizing Palestine as a state. This conversation has been going on for over 2 weeks now, and Europe is driving this conversation. What needs to happen among the two, a two-state solution or recognizing Palestine as a state? Will that have any effects?
I have a little bit of a cynical view on this issue. I think, first of all, we should point out that inside these Western countries, there is increased opposition to Western support for the Israeli genocide in Gaza. We are always seeing in Western countries activists mobilizing. We see where public opinion stands. So I think leaders of countries such as France and other countries in the West have to contend with domestic dynamics. And I think this is about sort of trying to placate those in the West who are increasingly outraged by everything that's taking place in Gaza as well as in the West Bank. But in sort of a grander picture, I think at the same time, this is a little bit of a distraction from the genocide in Gaza. Countries can recognize the state of Palestine while also being extremely supportive of Israel. Let's keep in mind that probably the EU member state that's most pro-Israel, pro-Netanyahu is Hungary, which for a long period of time has actually recognized the state of Palestine. So countries like France can continue to support Israel and thus obviously be complicit in the genocide in Gaza while making these very symbolic moves and gestures to recognize the state of Palestine. If they want to actually do something to change facts on the ground to some extent, we would have to see them cut off diplomatic relations and trade relations with Israel, impose an arms embargo, which actually, to the credit of Slovenia, they recently did. But until countries like France and the UK and Canada take those kinds of moves, this recognition of the state of Palestine is very symbolic. And as I said, and I'll repeat, I really think it's basically just a distraction from the fact that Western governments are, by and large, facilitating and supporting the genocide in Gaza.
All right, Mr. Giorgio Cafiero, it's good to see you. We'll have to end the discussion there. Thank you for talking to us today.
Thank you.